we were looking at the robots, because we say when these AI or AI agents on the software side, what's the next going to be landing for public sector perspective? Say we're probably going to see robots that are doing the snow shoveling and helping people when it's minus 40. That how could that help, right? So we kind of see and also bring. So right now our teams also bring these two pieces into our portfolio, kind of work with our Wave Tech Center to bring this into more engineering practice.
That's one of the things that I love about you, Nan, where the spectrum of innovation, the spectrum of hammers that you have is very broad, right? Like you mentioned about AI agents, you mentioned about coding and AI coding, then you mentioned robotics and robots maybe shoveling snow, like VR applications, AR, the gamut of different types of innovation. That was pretty cool.
What I found out is lots of time by continuing practicing these small pieces, the big, you say the disruptive ones come out of this daily. It's like we're learning. I think you and I come from some academic backgrounds. Like, we won't be able to come up with great ideas just overnight. We have to keep reading probably hundreds of paper. And then one day I was like, after I try all these things, we know this thing's probably going to be big.
Innovation function, sometimes it's embedded within an analytics or an IT team or an independent innovation lab, which is doing blue sky ideas, completely separated out, or in a center of excellence, or like a tiger team that goes in on difficult projects, or like Google does something like everybody gets 20% of the time to do innovation. Like there are different models, all have their own place. Did you have any thoughts on any of these patterns, pros and cons?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned all these patterns. I believe we try probably, or still trying all of them, if not all, probably most of them. And we have lots of tigers here. Like every organization, we have our unique challenges, but we also have to admit that lots of times the common challenges or common requirements that we are very, very well shareable. We are sharing the same challenging problems. Lots of times it's more that we want to spend 80% of our energy or investment to solve that 20% difference, right? All we want to basically just say, let's get together, deliver the 80% of common factor.
You know what? That's one of the goals of doing this podcast. Very well put, that we have so much more in common. Like we think we are unique, but there are so many foundational things that are in common. Then rather than reinventing the wheel everywhere, and if the sharing was more through these kind of channels, then there's so much benefits to be had for everyone.
100%, right? You hit the nail there. And this back to the product designs that, okay, we design this as more adaptable or decouplable so that we can configure it for, I'll say, the ideal innovation and truly working innovation is something that the business user doesn't even need to worry or know about the technology behind this. It's more that this works and that's it. It doesn't have to know about Gen AI or non-Gen AI IoT.
Welcome to GovAI.fm, your no-nonsense guide to AI in the public sector. Connect with peers and learn from real successes, failures, and lessons from the trenches.
Next on GovAI.fm, we sit down with Dr. Nan Xie, an award-winning public sector innovation leader, a researcher, and adjunct professor whose work spans AI, IoT, and smart city tech. Our goal is to tap into real-world experience when turning fresh ideas into public sector results. So welcome, Nan.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Maybe we should start with your personal story so we would get to know you a little better. So what brought you into innovation and AI and public sector?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And like looking back and thinking about why you're in this field and why innovations, I think it's something that basically it's a choice that say what's the better way to provide the value for our public services. Lots of times is going back to how we can leverage technology, leverage new idea and innovations. I think all these pieces coming together, which basically motivate us to benefit our community and continuously deliver our public services.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Maybe one of the things, like many organizations, many public sector folks who would be watching this might or might not have an innovation team and might not know what an innovation leader does on a day-to-day basis. So maybe, just making it more real for them.
Yeah, it's humbly say I'm always hesitant to say I'm an innovation leader. I think I'm so proud to be a part of an innovation group within our organization that to be able to work as an innovation leader, it's more the responsibility of how we can enable a innovation culture for the organization, help to promote and advocate that culture. Because to me, everybody within the organization is a innovation leader. It's not much about a specific person. Is that everybody has their own idea. Probably can look at different process, and that's where we can make our organization and operation better. But lots of times I would say is how to identify the problem. It's actually quite important. We have to identify the problem first before we come up with some idea. And I think in order to identify a problem, it's more that to spend lots of times. And I really enjoy those moments that to sit down with our internal business units, different service lines, and fully understand how we can help them, how technology can help them. I think those are basically spend most of the energy and time. I really enjoy that part. And then also is that to help bridge the gap between technology and benefits realization, right? So I think those are the areas that I'll say I've been putting lots of thoughts.
I love like a couple of tidbits I'm taking from what you already started with. One is focusing on that problem, putting in the right amount of effort in that. And then the second thing that you mentioned is everybody is an innovation leader. So your view of innovation is more ground up. So the people who are in a specific line of business who are doing their day-to-day work, this is an encouragement for them that think of yourself as an innovation leader. You will come up with the right problem, and you are a very important part of an ecosystem. You don't need to be in an innovation team to be doing innovation.
Well said.
Okay, perfect. If an organization wants to start an innovation function, like let's say if you have a peer who don't have an innovation team, how would you build a business case? What would persuade executives and like finance leaders to invest in an intrapreneurship kind of function?
It's surprisingly that, at least from my observation, lots of the senior leadership executive teams, they are super supported about innovation and innovation teams, and basically encourage about thinking out of the box. So I'm sure it's probably won't be a hard sell or a difficult sell. And lots of times, I think it's always that, right? It's always that start from small. It could be 1%, 2%, as to my point. Innovation, we don't necessarily need a large team to do innovation. Everybody is an innovation leader. Could start a small idea, a small team. And I think it's most important is that get the hands dirty, try it out, go beyond just idea. Do a prototype, show the quick results, and make the result impactful. So I think there's a little behind this is that in order to build, if we call it the business case, is that we can build lots of things, but we need to build or pick something that is really relevant and really impactful and meaningful to our organization. There's alignment with what the objective of the organization want to achieve. Then we'll make the business case, or even the small, let's say, chat about anything becomes very, very showcaseable, right? So I think that's probably some of the learning we have here.
I love that. So what you're saying is if you're making a business case, spend less time on those decks for the business case and more time on starting something small, giving some results, and using that to make your business case. And that works much better.
And also tied to what we just said is that it's really important for this innovation team to identify what really matters or what exactly is the problem, instead of just thinking of fancy technology or new technology. That's not the point, right? It's more how innovation can help the business and public services.
Yes, very good point. So the idea is about the value that the innovation uncovers as opposed to the appeal of how cool the product looks.
And then, so if I could add more is a little bit is that, well, we start from small and then adding value while the team grows. It's basically, it's more a natural growth, right? You add value and then we ask more resources to basically expand the team and also basically improve the footprints and increase the value that we can deliver.
That goes to the next question I wanted to ask you. So I've been at a few public sectors. Our innovation function can be in different sizes. Sometimes it's embedded within an analytics or an IT team, doing innovation, or an independent innovation lab, which is doing blue sky ideas, completely separated out, or in a center of excellence, or like a tiger team that goes in on difficult projects and does innovation on that, or like Google does something like everybody gets 20% of the time to do innovation. Like there are different models to get this innovation going, and different teams all have their own place. Did you have any thoughts on any of these patterns for within an organization and what works, what doesn't work, or pros and cons?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned all these patterns. I believe we try probably, or still trying all of them, if not all, probably most of them. And we have lots of tigers here for sure, right? So my personal experience is that regardless of what patterns or approaches you are trying, at the end, what we need is a systematic and governance innovation pipeline. So when it's mentioned innovation pipelines, because when we look at innovation at the end, we're not trying to just deliver a POC or a fancy concept. It has to be something in production and sustainable and bring the value. So this is where the pipeline comes in, is that then you have to structure the teams or different skill sets of people into different stage of this pipeline, from early ideation to proof concept to production, to even say at the end, or the cycle is more sustainment or life cycle. Even innovation has life cycle, right? So we're more looking at that and say, okay, how do we collaborate with different skill sets across the organization and build this pipeline and make sure that it's reusable, sustainable, and running in with governance? Because that's incredibly important for public sector, is that we need the security, we need lots of guidance, responsible, ethical use of technology. So that's where the governance that getting really important to make sure the pipe running as we need.
So a couple of things I got is make it a process, a pipeline that is repeatable. So any of these structures, but make it more repeatable and like an end-to-end process. And second, you said is having the right people in different teams connected to make this happen. Because we need, for innovation, we need different functions to connect. The people who are in problem domain, the people who are in the solution domain.
100%. And also, probably there's a core innovation team, but try to build an environment that encourages everybody to participate in the innovation.
About the innovation pipeline, so what feeds this pipeline? Where do innovation ideas come from?
Yeah, 100%. I'm looking at that is typically these ideas coming from multiple ways. It could be from top down, and it could be basically by listening or truly listening to what our community, public sentiments, what people are saying, or what people really like the city or our organization to be able to deliver. Basically come from these ideas or problem identification is more from both sides of from a technology team. I think we really need to understand, step out of the IT or technology's boundary, really try to understand what the business problem is. And at the same time, we need to also bring some of the awareness, make sure our business user understand what technology is available, or basically provide the arts are possible for them. And then they connect the dots. What I found is lots of times the gap. There is a wish list, and there's basically people sitting on, let's say on my side, we know there's lots of technology here, but we don't know where the problem is or it could solve, right? It's trying to bridge these gaps. So lots of these workshop or lots of these communications or collaboration becomes super important to identify problems.
What that reminds me is Chris Manning, one of my professors at Stanford. We were thinking of ideas and all, and he would say like, there is a hammer, which is your solution domain. These are like, I can do AI agents, I can do IoT, I can do chatbots, predictive analytics algorithm, computer vision. Like I have these hammers, right? Like these are solutions. And then there are these problems. Like I have a ferry terminal where I'm counting people and I need a computer vision to count how many people are going in or something. So there is a problem domain, right? Like, so the people who are in the solution domain many times are different than the people who are day to day in the problem domain. And somehow getting those two domains to come together, whether it's through hackathons where they're temporarily together, or whether Tiger Team projects where some KPI we are optimizing, and getting these problem domain, solution domain people together to come up with an answer. I think of myself as many times in a solution domain, right? Like, but if I want to understand problem domain, then I would almost go with them, like wear a hard hat and go with them for an inspection or whatever specific business process they are doing. So we work together, and then through that we try this, no, this doesn't work, we try something else. Kind of a messy process for that innovation idea to come out.
Exactly. We need to talk to the right people, and we also need to make sure we check with the end customers. Sometimes we want to make sure that when you talk to the people, has to be the people that eventually going to use this tool, use this solution, or going to be the people that will benefit by this solution. I would say the ideal innovation and truly working innovation is something that the business user doesn't even need to worry or know about the technology behind this. It's more that this works, and that's it. It doesn't have to know about Gen AI or no Gen AI IoT, right?
I love it. I totally agree with you. Within innovation, there is like some small I innovations, a continuous improvement kind of an innovation, as opposed to something which is a disruptive innovation where you are like changing the business process, right? Like using IoT to change the way you do things, right? Like things like that. So if you're looking at an innovation team's goal as a portfolio, then how do you manage the portfolio? Like, do you have some targets for some disruptive innovations versus some incremental innovations? And then do you you measure KPIs on how many POCs converted into prod? Like, how do you manage an innovation?
Innovation is it sounds exciting, but lots of times it could be boring too. When we back to our daily jobs, right? As you say, every day is this very small pieces of innovation or improvement. We put it that way. Say, hey, I don't like to submit this credit card paper, the statements. Can we do something better? And for us is that this is actually fit into right now. It's interesting in our team is that we take care of both with the daily incremental innovation, and I think your team will be the same. For example, robotic process automation is actually a great example. These are sometimes could be very, very trivial or very, very small pieces of just automate some repetitive small process, even just say automatically send out emails or notification. It's tiny, right? But lots of time we're seeing this is that we don't do all of this. Basically, first of all, we might not understand how these technology or how does innovation work. And without building all these foundation or daily work, we will not be able to understand how these technology work on the back end. And also, what I found out is that lots of time by continually practicing these small pieces, the big, or you say the disruptive ones
Love it.
come up out of this daily. It's like we're learning. I think you and I come from some academic backgrounds. Like, we won't be able to come up with great ideas just overnight. We have to keep reading probably hundreds of paper. And then one day I was like, after I try all these things, we know this thing's probably going to be big, right? So in our team, we have this. Yeah. And we also have a pretty large project or even programs that could be quite impactful and for a big number perspective. Yeah. So we kind of have both here, but I do see they're both equivalently important.
Okay. So now if you wanted to walk us through a journey from POC to pilot to production and all the ups and downs through some of your favorite use case that you can share.
I have to say, but there are lots. And and I hope it's okay that I'm not just using AI as an example because I have lots of technology here.
That's great.
And for AI, we're still doing lots of proof concept pilots and moving to production, etc. Some of the example could be using the camera or video analytics pieces, machine learning, deep learning for crowd or people counting a few years ago. And it all comes with a small business problem, I'll call small business problem, and a small POC to try out, say, hey, can we use a deep learning algorithm and see whether or not we can help counting how many people are gathering during like fireworks or Canada Day event during the night, better of the event management and from public safety as well. So it's very small sort of a POC and eventually got a pretty successful POC through that year's event. And after that, every year we kind of try to fine tune it and make sure it's better and slowly make it into production. It does take time from POC to production. And I want to use an example is that we have been building one of we call the IoT Internet of Things sensors for monitoring noise. And that project from the ideation to now today, we have some in productions in across the city. It takes years, probably 4 or 5 years.
I see. And what noise was this?
It's ambient noise, traffic noise, and we put it on the traffic intersection, etc. Right? So it even start from a concert and try to helping our understand how much of the noise could be impacted our community. And we start even from just building a circuit board with the university, put it together, and then we basically travel by ourselves, hanging the box outside the poles and waiting some of the, and go back to tear it down once the concert's down and start collecting this field data. And then slowly towards today, that basically last year, we're able to start deploying 20-ish of sensors across the city to start. And now we're making that, now we have these data. We are working on, and you know this very well, to implement the edge AI to these sensors so that we can identify or classify the source. Is it a traffic noise? Is it a vehicle noise? Or is it something else, right? Or at the spots, which basically to provide better privacy from that protection perspective. So it took years.
This is such a nice use case.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting journey for us, for sure.
Cool. You're almost thinking of it as a product. And then there's a version 1 of your iPhone, like that, version 1 of your innovation. And then you keep building to the next version.
Innovation is like create a product. So we're trying to start practicing, say, what's it a product management look like? And how can we, from the public sector even, can we understand what are the common problems and create a product or a solution that we can provide and benefits and the reusable factor of that. We're not going to just create a spotty or different individual product or solution. How can we basically understand the common factor and then make sure that one product from cost effective perspective, it's shared most or could basically share by many different service lines to solve the same problem.
I see. So you look at that product as a shared service that can be applied to other lines of business within your company. But now you're saying that, look, we are public sector and public sector is good at sharing with other public sectors. So maybe the sharing can be even beyond. We all have potholes and we all have snow trouble. So there will be if we build something that is repeatable, then the value will be much more. And public sector is much, go ahead.
Sorry to trouble you. Yeah. I know it's sometimes is like every organization, we have our unique challenge, but we also have to admit that lots of times the common challenges or common requirements we are very, very well shareable. We are sharing the same challenging problems. Lots of times it's more that do we want to spend 80% of our energy or investment to solve that 20% difference, right? All we want to basically just say, let's get together, deliver the 80% of common factor.
You know what? That's one of the goals of doing this podcast. Very well put, that we have so much more in common. Like we think we are unique, but there are so many foundational things that are in common. Then rather than reinventing the wheel everywhere, if the sharing was more through these kind of channels, then there's so much benefits to be had for everyone.
100%, right? You hit the nail there. And this back to the product designs that then how do we make sure this product, like again, if we use a technical term, how can we design this as more adaptable or decouplable so that we can configure it? I know I just say it's the easy way, but it's a challenging task.
So what you're saying is that innovation is one thing, but innovation in public sector, we also need to keep this in mind, that we are not marrying those systems to our legacy systems that are storing data and all.
That's
if we can make it generalizable, it is going to be useful. In private sector, it's much harder to share these things, but in public sector, it is. So you should keep that in the back of your mind when you are designing innovation. Any failures, noteworthy failures, or any lessons learned that you wanted to share with the audience?
I'll probably lying to you if I say we don't. We actually have lots of failures. Now is that when you look at lately, I read the book, right? It's called Principle from Ray Dalio, I believe, from the Wall Street person.
Okay.
And I think I remember what this book talk about is basically say it's really important that you fail and more important that you learn from the failure, right? I think we're doing the same thing, especially for newer technology or innovations that failure is it happens all the time. But I think for us is that we need to have a control, back to the systematic control or the failures that fail fast. And more important is that don't waste a failure. If it fails, not just say, it fails. Just say, okay, what's the value of that failure? What do we learn in taking out of that failure? So I think that's more important for us. And we have lots of failures. I'm not sure I want to quote lots of specific example, but just even some of the failure we have yesterday, right? It could be like, if I could learn my own personal experiences, like when the Gen AI was just started, say a couple of years ago, I was super excited and I kind of did just hands-on and put a chatbot based on my very limited understanding about some of the business knowledge. And I was super excited and share everybody that, this could work. And the development was super quick. Few weeks, got a chatbot there, and we thought this is going to be perfect for our business units. But in the end, it fails miserably because nobody actually, the business unit basically say, this is not what we're asking for, and this is not exactly going to solve my problem. So back to my original point is that you just have that focus on technology, just think about from one side of a story, it doesn't help. We really need to have a foundation of what is this innovation for.
Totally. Right? I love that example. So what you're saying, if you only start with a hammer, chatbot is a hammer, right? And like, where can I put it? And if you don't think deeply about the problem, then you end up in this trap where you're just trying to hammer something, right? Like, what worked the best in getting the right people working on innovation projects, like internal training, hiring from somewhere, using co-ops or using other organizations, augment your resources? What all works best?
And I think this is actually a really important part of the innovations that make sure that the right people at the right place. We love to use all different type of digital resources, depends on the business need. We have great summer students, we have co-op students, and they basically work with helping lots of innovative ideas. And we always have lots of even the we call junior developers or people just graduate from school. and they may not necessarily have the deep, let's say for AI machine learning background, but they're keen to get their hands dirty and try out. And also basically we're fortunate to be able to get a few of the experts from the industry to join us or through consultations, right? And we'll always just say, lots of times they say, we just need to raise hand for help, because this areas or this technology changed so much that it's almost like, well, I found this is struggling. How can I find help? It's more important to say through whatever channels to find helps come in. Lots of times also that to leverage like these type of collaboration, for example, between different public services to learn from each other. I found that it's incredibly useful and beneficial.
Technology changes so fast, and recently a lot of the new like deep learning, PyTorch and the attention, you need paper and all, they came recently, like when we were working. So in fact, the students that you would get from local universities knew a lot more about a lot of these newer approaches than people like 20, that people who are like 20 years doing, advanced analytics and all. Like you could do a lot more from that. So being nimble in that too, and getting the right tech from either external places or students.
Yeah, what you just say inspired me to think about, because lately I was been thinking about lots of times there's no AI, I would say there's no AI expert anymore, because I'm not sure I'm going to agree, but like lots of the knowledge that you and I learned or we thought we deeply understood at that time, no longer either applicable or with all these new changing. I'm not going to say I'm an expert anyway.
In terms of retention, like, public entities are not always like, they can't match a lot of private entities. Did you have any other non-monetary levers to keep and engage talent? Any tips on that?
I think the most important thing is to make sure that that's probably back to, before we talk about retention, is probably step back a little bit to understand that when we hire or recruit these people, we need to make sure people have the same mindset. You kind of correctly point out that public sector sometimes has disadvantage when you're trying to recruit resources, like from compensation and whatever side might not be comparable. So I think it's important at the very beginning that understand that the people willing to work with us, work for public sector, share the same value, that they want to use technology, they want to use their talents to deliver public services. And then for the retention pieces, I've always asked them, do you still have fun every day? Are you still enjoy what you're doing?
Very good.
That's very important, because lots of people, the reason they come to work, they come to basically even a late Friday afternoon, they're still doing work. You see that the lights still bring and working on that is like, or even in a weekend, they're still working on something. It's like, what's motivate them? Because they love it. And that's the fun and that's the passion that sometimes keeps things going. Also important that my experience is that make sure there's people, there's wonderful innovators from the teams that they understand and they're able to see the impact that they truly deliver. I think that's one of the things that what I learned is that lots of times for this technology and IT or AI team, they deliver lots of great things, but they never truly realize that what's the impact they have made. And we lots of time as me is that this is my responsibility to make sure they're aware of what they have done and truly helping the community. I can give an example that not long ago, I think our team delivered something for a tree program, because City of Cal, we actually give trees to the community. And then we deliver a few folks from our team deliver a automation program to help distribute and people sign up that tree program super quickly. I was heard that is reduces time from let's say 9 days to 9 minutes. That type of efficiency.
Congratulations.
And satisfaction. Cool. So I think it's it's more that make sure the technology team understand this is what they have done. And that will make everybody proud and truly feel accomplished. That's what they have done.
If I were one of the peers who was doing innovation they're very new and they're starting an innovation team and they just needed advice from some people who have done it for many years, you want to just summarize any of those things?
And some of the experience I say is that when we think about even start a small team or small innovation, we better think about what happened after innovation. Innovation doesn't necessarily means technology. Lots of times it could be even non-technology or just a process change or something else. Right? So don't stuck with just technology. And second thing is always think about a little bit behind, say a step before is that what happened after innovation, which means that so we have this great innovation showcase. What happened? How can we bring it to production or scale it up or even sustain it? Does it even make economic sense? So I think it's a bit jumping out of the box that we're going to be innovative for our innovation. So I think that's probably some of the learning.
I love it. Yeah.
through years.
I love it. Perfect. We are close to wrapping up. So I wanted to start with like emerging tech outlook. So are there any technologies or use cases or hammers, as we were calling earlier, that you think are the most promising, like AI agents, some things in IoT, coding agents, robotics, AR, VR, like anything that in the next maybe 12 to 18 months or even more, you think these are quite interesting and I'm going to look at them closely?
AI agents, you mentioned, and vibe coding definitely is probably, I would say, it's not the top, right? It's definitely something that none of us will ignore. Also, at least from our experience, we observed that AR, VR is also picking up quite a bit. I think it went down sort of a roller coaster, but I think from what we observed is also that because of especially on the AR side, with the AI, it's kind of helping out and push it a little bit more. I think AR definitely picking up lots of, for example, the mechanics or constructions or properties or vehicle inspection, etc. So it does pick up quite a bit, or even training side. And also we're looking at we were still looking at the robots, because we say when these AI or AI agents on the software side, what's the next going to be landing for public sector perspective? Say we're probably going to see robots that are doing the snow shoveling and helping people when it's minus 40. At how could that help? So we kind of see and also bring. So right now our teams also bring these two pieces into our portfolio. Kind of work with our Wave Tech Center to bring this into more engineering practice.
That's one of the things that I love about you, Nan, where the spectrum of innovation, the spectrum of hammers that you have is very broad, right? Like you mentioned about AI agents, you mentioned about coding and AI coding, then you mentioned robotics and robots maybe shoveling snow, like VR applications, the gamut of different types of innovations that we do. So that was pretty cool. Any other sleeper kind of technologies, things that are underestimated now?
I think quantum definitely something that you and I probably should start looking at, and we do start kind of paying a lot close attention. Quantum and how powerful it is, even to say, if you use quantum now, it completely say driven how public sector to do making more a data-driven decision, even through simulation, through all this super powerful quantum computation resources to give you millions of choices and recommend one of the best options, right? Look at those as that's pretty powerful.
Last thing we wanted to do is lightning round, like just something fun. We'll ask questions and give you quick answers of first thing that comes to your mind. AI buzzwords that you'll gladly retire.
Sometimes I'm even thinking about AI itself. This word.
I love it. AI. It's AI itself, the word.
Yeah. I don't know AI actually correctly describe what it is now or the future. It probably need to rename it, or maybe AI is already, like lots of things have been developed, is beyond AI or this word AI. That's my thought, right? Come from a technology perspective. But nowadays AI to me is a utility. It's like the electricity. And it's something that when people say I'm working on AI, I was like, well, you probably better say you're providing electricity, right? Or your utility. So I don't know if AI actually correctly or probably been overused on different scenarios.
Second is any favorite public sector use case anywhere in the world? If you have any, like, I would love to do this, or I thought this was cool.
Use cases that bring social impact and bring people together. For example, lately we have been thinking about how can we use AI to help indigenous culture or languages. Because when you look at language translation these days, Gen AI can translate English to French, Germany, etc. But how about indigenous people? How is there a library there that can help them, or how we can help them preserve that heritage? And after generation, can AI actually help them to keep that beautiful language still continuing forward? These are some of the things that we're thinking more that how can we get AI to basically really help the people in society?
Love it. Okay, final question. Any books, papers, podcast that you want to mention that influenced you in technology, AI, innovation, anything? You mentioned a couple already, but anything else you wanted to mention to people?
Yeah, for sure. I read lots of books, and honestly, sometimes you just couldn't like all this mix up. I would say one of I had to say podcast. Your podcast.
Okay.
I recommend your podcast.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
I lately read a book called, and probably you might read that as well. It's called Life 3.0, Being Human in the Age of AI. I think this is it was a non-fiction book. Heard about that, right? It was a non-fiction book by, I believe it's Max, some probably Techmark. Sorry if I didn't forgot to pronounce it.
Okay.
I think he's a researcher at MIT, and I really love that book. I've been sharing what I learned from that book is that it kind of explores how AI and its potential impact to the future of life on Earth and our future. And then basically from those, describe those impact, then understand and help me understand how the responsible ethical AI use the importance of that. So if I could share a little details of that, is that what I learned is that Life 1.0 is basically the biological stage. It's that for example, the simple biological forms of life, say the worms or the mouse. And Life 2.0 is more like human, that life can design our own software, which means that we can learn. But we cannot change our hardware, right? Once I'm short, I'm short. I'm tall. So Life 3.0 is more becomes a technological stage that they might be able even to rebuild their hardware, which means that if I'm a virtual server or a cloud of AI, I might be able to just keep growing I need more results and build my own hardware. And which becomes a very profound understanding about how that Life 3.0 could impact us and how should we make sure there's a safe use or responsible use of AI to put in place. I was trying to recommend and read that book. It's quite fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is a great note on to close this episode. Thank you very much, Nan, for coming and sharing your insights.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was govai.fm. Connect with us on LinkedIn, suggest a guest, and stay tuned for real stories from AI in action.